Hi, I'm Raza Aziz, guest host on Living 365 TV today. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365.
Hi, I'm Grant Browning, guest host on Living 365 TV today. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365.
Hi, I'm Lucas Asu, guest host on Living 365 TV today. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365.
Hi, I'm Priya, host of Living 365 TV. It's time to stop waiting and start living 365. Welcome to Living 365 TV. I'm your host, Priya. This show is designed to bring you real experts with real tools for real people like you who are ready to stop waiting and start living 365. Movember continues, ladies and gentlemen. I have another panel of great male hosts available today here for you with their expertise, their charisma, and their great personalities. So just to let you know, we are going to be at Oakville's largest holistic wellness expo. Living 365 TV will be covering the expo on Saturday, November the 21st from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at St. Joseph's Ukrainian Catholic Church. There will be 85 local and surrounding area practitioners and vendors who provide an abundant assortment of care. So here's how this works. You pay an admission of $25 to get in the door, and then you have access to all of those practitioners for 15 minutes each free. So if you can get to 85, I don't think you can between that time, but you can get to as many as you can. It's going to be a fabulous day. I want to make a little shout out here to Creatively Beautiful Bridal Makeup, who is Living 365 TV's official makeup sponsor. The gentlemen have all been done up. They look great. You should have seen them when they came in. No, I'm just kidding. If you want this look, ask for Geeta at Creatively Beautiful Makeup. Now, joining me today, again, because he's here all month, Mr. Lucas Asu, life coach and NLP expert. Welcome back, Lucas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Priya.
And we have Raza Aziz, business, author, and speaker. Raza, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, Mr. Grant Browning, branding and marketing specialist, publisher of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper, and owner of Carib 101 Media Corp. Grant, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Now, it's really funny because I spoke to you earlier when we came in today, and I invited you to be on the show, and Raza said, I wasn't sure that I was the right person for this show when you were talking about marriage and relationships. And I thought, I'm pretty sure you were married. Oh, I'm married already. I just wasn't sure I was the right person for the show. That's what you said, right?
Absolutely.
And now I know you are not married. I just want to make sure.
I am not married.
Ladies,
That's true. I am not married. I'm dating.
Dating?
Yes, I'm dating.
Okay, dating but not married. So, but with a wealth of relationship expertise.
That's true.
Okay, great. And of course, Grant, how long have you been married, Grant?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
Yes.
Very nice. I had the pleasure of meeting your lovely wife last week and your son, who is a little adorable tyrant, as we said. Now, around marriage and relationships, I'm really curious to know, from the male perspective, what is it that you find helps keep your marriage in balance? Because you're still married, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, or the relationship that you might be in, Lucas. What helps to keep your relationship in balance? What do you contribute, and what do you find that you need? Anybody, feel free to jump in.
It takes work. I mean, anything that's worth something of value, it does take work. You really have to put an effort in, you know, and realize the other person is just as important as anything else that you're doing. And I don't know. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't say something that comes natural, but if it's something that you want, then it comes natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I agree with Grant here. You know, it is work. One of the things that I always say right at the beginning. Now, this again, I don't know if this is going to go against our men's thinking, but us men, we don't know anything about relationship. Okay, so let's just start off with that. So that's what helps me.
You heard it here on Living 365 TV. The admission
right.
has been said. They know
That's
nothing.
right. Absolutely. And you know what? If we start there, when I start there, and then I'm like, okay, so I don't know anything, I need to learn. that's where I show up in the relationship in a learning mode, not knowing that, you know what, I know everything. I'm here to learn, and I'm going to learn alongside with my wife. So that helps me move on.
Did she know you knew nothing when she got involved with
No,
you? Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't know that I didn't know
You
anything.
didn't know you didn't know.
That's
Until
right.
you
I
got
didn't know.
there.
It took me.
Figured out,
It took
shoot,
me.
I don't know.
That's right. It took me 10 years to figure that out. Oh my God, I didn't know anything. So now it's all. It's really a. I'm a business author, so for me, it's always about strategy.
Yeah.
So I had to bring a strategy in place. I can't just operate from default. And that's what Grant, I completely agree with you that it is work. It takes intention. You can't just walk in and everything is just rosy. Well, it might be for first few years,
Yeah.
but then it's work.
Can we talk about that? Why is it rosy in the first few years?
Well, you know what?
The honeymoon wears off, the old saying, right? And then all of a sudden the real person comes out, right?
And I hadn't been married before,
Yes.
right? So for me, when I originally got married, yeah, well, married once. When I got married, it was I had spent some time with this girl, and and we had spent so many years and all together. So it seemed to me at that time the right thing to do. And did I love this girl? Of course I did. And boom, here we are. We got married. And as for getting married, and then of course there's the whole other side of things that start coming. In our culture they say you don't just marry, two people don't marry, their families get married too.
Yeah.
So that was a whole brand new angle. That was a completely brand new angle. Being from the South Asian community, that had a big bearing on how I was learning to be in a married life. Not only that, and then you think, or at least I did, that the married life was going to be the same as the dating life or knowing her previously. Boy, it was totally different. Now it's all of a sudden we're buying a house. I'm like, why are we buying a house? Like, why do we need to? And then after the buying of the house, then there was like, well, we got to have kids. Why do we need to have kids? Like, what happened? So for me, it was a completely. I was thrown off my game. If I did have a game, I was completely thrown off. And then it was just stumbling through all of these things and just making things happen. And then it comes to a point that you're like, I'm like, where am I going? Right? So for me to just kind of state all that is for me, the rosiness of the thing was to me, I was under a misconception that it's going to be the same. Whereas the other responsibilities and other things that I hadn't taken into account just showed up.
You never anticipated.
Never anticipated it. Never anticipated that, I need to be mindful of that or these things will come up. I thought we were on the same page until she started talking about kids.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I've been married twice and divorced twice, but I've learned as well. And I find that sometimes, or not, often men get into a marriage with that, I like this, I'd like to have more of this. In fact, I think I might like to have a lifetime of this, so here we go. And women kind of get into it, I love this, I love you, now change. I love you, let's get married, now let's do, and now we're going to do this. And I don't necessarily know that we start on the same page. One of the things I've observed throughout my practice and my experience, I often joke about starting up a business where women can come to me and they can pick out a groom and the plates and the napkins and the dress and the music and the flowers, and they can invite their friends and they can go and have the ceremony and they can get married and then they can just go home. Because a lot of times I find there's women out there that want a wedding, and they too, because we also don't know. I mean, I'm going to call it like it is. I got to be real on the show. We women don't know either. A lot of times we're very focused on having the wedding and the fairy tale, and we have no idea that, what do you mean I got to share my closet with you? Like, oh, no, I'm sorry, there's no room for you in here.
Don't get me started on that one.
What do you mean you snore at night? Don't you have an off button for that thing? Like, these things that come in that we don't know either. So I'm curious to know, like, do you find that it was a little bit of a, I don't want to go as far as say a bait and switch, but you weren't necessarily prepared, and maybe those aren't conversations that you have even, you're not married, but in relationships where we kind of find out where are we at and where are we going?
Well, I mean, and you know what? One of the things that I used to be always puzzled with is what is the purpose of marriage, right? Like you come across, and maybe I'll just open up to you guys. What is the purpose behind it? Why do people get married? I mean, I have my version that I eventually got.
Yeah.
You know, first it was for me, it was the right thing to do. I don't know if that will
right
take
thing
me too far, right?
And before that, it was because you were so madly in love with her, right?
That's right.
Yes, that's right. I got you. I'm just making
Thank
sure
you,
I know
Priya.
where you got to go
Thank you,
after
Priya.
here. So.
See, we need women to guide us sometime.
Now, how about you?
I think one of the main things is definitely take the time to maybe even live with each other at first, because then from there, I mean, same thing as Raza said. I mean, once the kids come in the picture, I mean, life changes, right? And you may know each other, you might grow from that point, you know, as getting into a relationship. Nothing changes in the essence of being together as far as I was concerned with our relationship. It was just a piece of paper. But once the first child showed up, my daughter showed up, life was a totally different thing, right? So, and again, you got to learn, right? You got to move from there.
And this is very, very important. And that's why, I coach a lot of clients. I have a lot of clients, both singles, those that are married. I have straight clients. I have gay clients. I coach almost everyone. Those that have the best relationships and those that have the most horrible relationship in the books of history. And the problem and the opportunity that I find, the people that are very successful in their marriages, in their relationships, are people that they took the time, either they did intuitively to select someone that they are very complementary.
Yes.
So the selection process is the beginning or the end of a relationship. If done right, it set the intention. It basically creates the destiny of that relationship. If it's not done right, it creates the destiny of the end of that relationship. So who you select to be in a relationship with is the key to the longevity, the love, the passion, the playfulness, or how long that relationship lasts, and the depth of love that is going to be in that relationship. So that relationship is first created from that moment of selection. That's why this is so important, who you choose to be in a relationship with.
And you know, it's very true. I found like you need to have a point of reference. You need to be able to go out and experience life first, right? And know what you like and what you don't like. When myself and my wife first got together, it was almost like an interview process. Right? It was like we're on the phone and we're like, yeah, so you like this? Do you like that? No, I don't like this. Hey, you know what? And then you start finding, you know, common ground. And from there, you know, it's where you start building, right? And it just worked, you know? I mean, you really do have to, I think one of the most crucial keys is that point of reference. You need to know what you want and don't want.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I know you've lived with a woman before, so
Yes, I have.
Yes.
And it was one of the greatest experiences, in my opinion. I made a great choice, and I made it out of love. We had so much of a connection, and yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It was great.
Did you notice any changes though, as we're noticing here, before when you were just dating and living apart, as to when you came together?
I actually wanted it so badly to live with her. When we started dating, this is someone that is no longer in my life,
Yes.
but that experience was so great. I cherish it till this day. When we started dating, we talked for hours, including the early hours of the morning. And then within 3 months, we started living together. And it was great. I never found any changes because of the level of love and the connection that we share together. And I think for the 2+ years we were together, it was the same, in my opinion. We never had fights. We had disagreement, but we never had really intentional fights because we're just so in sync in almost everything. We cook together, clean together, we do a lot of things together. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. That's what a relationship is for, right? So how do you start to know though when things like do you ever find that little rocky period where you feel a bit of disconnect, and how does anybody handle that? Because I know in relationships I've been to, obviously I chose to disconnect permanently, but when you start to feel that distance or that that you're out of sync, how do you work around that? How does that impact men? Because I think as a lot of our viewers are female,
Yes.
we do have male viewers, but just to help the ladies know, what's kind of going on for you guys when you start to feel that pull away or that distance between you guys and your partners.
I think you need to be present. Like you have to stop and really be present. I mean, I work with my wife, so she's my business partner as well as
Yeah.
my life partner, and that's been like that since we first got together. And there's times where we'll bash heads literally when it comes to business, and you have to stop and you have to, get present with the situation and realize, like, it's just a situation, right? And how can we get around it? And I used to annoy her because of where she came from and her life that she had before with, different relationships where it was fight, 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 I don't like you, get away, and you, maybe come back like a day or two later kind of thing, where it was like, no, we're going to deal with it now. Let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's figure out how we can come to a solution, because obviously you don't see my point of view and I don't see yours, So it's really becoming present, I think,
A lot of proactivity is needed in this arena. But during times of disconnect, one of the things that I'm extremely open to, and that's driven by the context that my wife is my best coach, right? In a relationship, that I kind of give her the room to just express whatever it is that is going on for her. Because me, with my brain, I probably haven't seen it, right? Probably haven't seen it. So coming to the table and say, and giving her that complete presence from my side. I call it listening to her, but I've got no agenda, right? Nothing. I'm not justifying myself. I'm not bringing anything to the table. I'm like, okay, tell me, what is it, right? And then just working from there. And sometimes, and many a times, it's just simply that. It's just simply giving an opportunity to her to just talk and feel heard, right?
Yeah.
That feeling heard can just transform anything, right? If we can authentically, whether we are in our personal relationships or in our business relationships, if we can just have people feel heard, I think that's just transformation right there.
And what you just said, it's very true. Most people in the world, even children, both men, women, but especially in the context of relationship, most women, what they need the most from a man, from a guy, it's them to listen. They want to be heard. Even in my relationship, just as you said, you create an environment in which, when you guys are going to what I call a turbulent moment, you create an environment in which you want to hear, feel, and just be present with what is it that they think, in their opinion, you are doing wrong or they are doing wrong. So whatever the problem is, and not take it personal.
That's right.
And not take it personal. People are too attached to their ego, and they forgot that they're in a relationship. They take things so personal that they take the other person literally like an enemy.
Yeah.
As if they're against them. And this is one of the most destructive patterns in a relationship. Once love is supreme, if people can make love the supreme umbrella of their relationship, the place they go to whenever there's a problem, where your partner becomes the ultimate person in your life. Like, this is my friend, this is my partner. You can't go against someone that is your best friend. You can't want to fight them, you don't want to kill them, you don't want to hurt them. But you want to listen from their point of view. What exactly is going on? And really listen and be present. You have to take it in. And then from that moment on, you don't have to justify, you don't have to rationalize, you don't have to defend. When people are defending their righteousness, which is how I call it, that is the second biggest killer of relationship.
Rightness.
Yeah, their rightness. From the religious point of view, their righteousness. People are so eager to just want to be right. I'll say something to my clients. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be in love?
That's right.
Which one do you value the most?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things I also noticed is that there's a difference between a willingness to adapt and having to change. So, for instance, I was dating a gentleman recently, and it just wasn't, timing wasn't right for me. He wasn't available as much, just as scheduling, which is fine. I totally accept that. But I said, you know what, this isn't really working out for me because of the timing. And he said, well, you didn't tell me what you want. And I said, yeah, I know, but I know what I want. And who you are is who you are right now, and I don't want you to change for me, because I find that one of the things I noticed in my marriages was, it was a line I heard in both of my marriages was, well, if you had known that when you met me, would you have married me? And it was like, yeah.
Ouch.
Right? So it's one of those things where sometimes we're putting our best foot forward in order to impress this person that we care about, but is that sustainable? Is that something that we can sustain? So I'm wondering, like, how do you manage that in relationships when, yes, you want to meet your partner's needs, but to stay true to who you are? How do you as men, you know, put that forth?
I think, I can only speak from my personal experience, but it's let the person be their true self, right? Like, I mean, I don't look to change her. It's who she is, right? Of course, I got to look at myself and be present with the situation too, and say, you know, like, maybe I need to change. Maybe it's me, right? So, I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, like if let's just say she wants you to do something different, but it kind of goes against what you really want or what you feel is right for you. How do you ascertain that you know, balance or that middle ground of that with and you know, keep your partner in the space of still feeling heard and still feeling cherished and supported and valued?
It's not so much about people changing. It's so much about getting better.
For sure.
Yeah. No one wants to change who they are, but everyone strive to be better at who they are. We all have innate capacity, potential within ourselves. And so there are patterns. We all have patterns or methods or means or ways we have done things prior to meeting this person. We've acquired certain beliefs, certain values along the way of life. Sometimes when we go into a relationship, it may have worked in your family structure, the way you deal with your parents, the way you talk to your brothers, the way you talk to your sister, the way you communicate at the workplace. But in the context of an intimate relationship, that person communicates, the way they receive information, the way they want to be talked to could be radically different. And this is something that we all have to learn to be able to communicate. And the ability to communicate in a relationship scenario, in a relationship context, it gives you the ability to speak the emotion of what is it that the other persons need to feel in order for them to feel your presence, in order for them to feel that you love them, in order for them to feel that you care about them. When we don't do that, then we prevent people from not only from being themselves, but from giving them the space with which they can flourish.
So give us, because my viewers love personal examples. That's why you guys are here, right? To share your personal story. So give me something more personal from you to demonstrate what you're saying. Tell the viewers in a way that, you know, maybe you've dated other women or women and they maybe want you to change something and it's maybe not really what you want. Give us a personal example.
I naturally have a lot of energy. So I tend to have, my days are usually very long. I love to wake up very early in the morning and I love to go to bed very late at night. My girlfriend, the girl I was dating, she wasn't like that. She likes to go to bed very early. So I have to learn to adapt to be able to meet her needs in the way that it keeps the relationship going. So what I develop strategies, I come up with better ways to say, okay, I could stay up to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning depending on my day. By 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, she's gone to bed. And she loves to be put to bed. What I mean that she loves that the fact that when she's going to bed, she wants me to accompany her to bed until she falls asleep. That's for her, how she feels respected, how she feels cherished, how she feels that I love her, and how she feels that I really understand her. So I came up with a strategy. I would do most of my work in the early part of the evening. So by 8 o'clock, we could spend time together. When she wants to go to bed around 10 o'clock at night, I would spend that 1 hour to talk to her about her day, about what's happening, just to be in her presence until she falls asleep. And once she falls asleep, an hour after that, I crawl out.
And you know, Lucas mentioned, both of you mentioned a great point. You know, one of the things that us men, we haven't taken the time, whether, you know, as we were growing up, is really finding out exactly what we want and why are we doing what we do. Because there's a certain kind of an energy, certain kind of an aura about a man who's on a mission. So being on purpose and finding out what is it that you truly want, your values, your principles, what they are, can help you. For me, it took me a while to get to that point. It's like, okay, what is it that what do I stand for? Right? Because once my wife knows what I stand for, she's going to know that I'm holding that ground, and that's the anchor that is in the relationship. And many of us, and even some of my friends, some of my colleagues that I've worked with, we're coasting through life. And to me, I'll admit it, I learned it quite late that's what creates attraction in a relationship. When a man is on a mission and he's got values that keep him grounded. And it's not like with men, we're a little bit different from women. We don't have like a whole list of values or principles. We have we might have like 2 or 3 things. Like for example, I'll give you my example. For me, my growth and personal development is extremely important to me. It's one of those non-negotiables. Yeah. Right. So when I'm in that, so if let's say my wife wants to go somewhere, or we've got some plans coming up and everything like that, if I have a commitment to something of my own, then I will. That's a ground that I will hold. Everything else is negotiable.
Absolutely.
Everything else. You want me to do dishes, take the garbage out, whatever the case may be. It's all on the table. So I think that's one of the things that us men we want to be more aware of.
One of the things that Raza just touched on, which kind of got me thinking, was he mentioned at work, or people like your co-workers or whatever, and what they just coast along and whatnot. I think it's really important that you need to control your environment and what you bring in and who you associate with, because I've always found that if you start hanging around with the old thing, same with our kids, you don't want our kids hanging around certain people. It's the same thing when it comes to a marriage. If you're hanging around people that have rocky marriages, they go out and they cheat or do whatever, it does come back on you, and then it does reflect on you with how you treat your relationship, and you don't even notice sometimes, right? It just happens, right? So you really have to control that environment of who you got around you, what you're doing, and how people treat their spouses as well.
That brings up a point or a thought in my head about that. You sort of brought up other people and who's around you, and how I have a lot of clients that come in, or even just girlfriends that are married, and men tend to notice other women. And I'm curious how you guys handle that in your relationships, because women are beautiful. They're goddesses, and I can only imagine. I mean, I love to look at women. I think they're beautiful. Now, how can we reassure women that this isn't that you want to go be with that woman?
Yeah, you're admiring
beauty. It's that
beauty.
you're appreciating the beauty. How do you handle that with your wives and
Don't hide
relationships?
Don't hide it. I mean, that was one thing that I had spoke with my wife at the beginning and explained to her. I mean, I used that, maybe it was a different analogy, but I said, if you're walking along the street and suddenly I stop and I'm staring at this Ferrari, I'm not looking at it and I gotta have it, or I'm going to take it and steal it. I'm just looking at it, admiring the beauty. Or if I'm walking and there's a beautiful sunset, well, you're admiring the beauty. Well, it's the same thing, right? Like, if you're walking, there's this beautiful girl that walks by, it does not mean that you want to be with them. It's just you're admiring the beauty. I mean, if they take care of themselves or whatever, I mean, it stands out. It really does stand out, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just gotta know your boundaries, right?
Yes.
It's not like I'm looking to do anything else with them. It's just, I mean, she'll laugh sometimes, and she'll like, look at that one over there, right? Isn't she beautiful, right?
Yes.
And it's very true, though. Like, you really, I mean, that all comes down to, again, having an open relationship.
And
right?
how does that work in reverse for you guys then, when she notices an attractive man?
It is what it is, right? I mean, gotta be fair.
Let's talk about that.
You feel goose and gander.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's what's fair is fair, right? I mean, it's just admiring. I mean, if the guy's physique is good, he takes care of himself. I mean, if he's a good-looking guy, he's a good-looking guy. I mean, any girl or guy that says that they don't look at the opposite sex when they're married, I mean, don't believe them. They're lying, right? I mean, every guy is a guy and every girl is a girl, right? So I mean, you got to be able to be open and willing to accept it, and just know that as long as you're secure with you and what you're doing and how you treat your family and your spouse, there's never any issue about worrying about that stuff.
Yeah. And this is so important that both men and women need to understand this. This is an innate behavior.
Yeah.
Okay? When a guy is very masculine in his nature, wherever he is, however he dresses, emotionally and energetically, he will always trigger the energy, the feelings, the response of a feminine woman. It doesn't matter whether it's with his wife and children. It's just the state of that presence will trigger that. How you respond to it, it's something we're doing. Both men and women are doing it. When a woman walks into a room, if she's really feminine and beautiful, all men that are masculine in that room will respond. Now, it's the same thing. When a guy is very feminine, masculine in his essence, and he enters a room, every girl that is feminine in that room will respond, even if they are with their partner. It's just an innate thing all human beings have in common. Right? Now, how people respond to these triggers, this is where their standards comes into play. This is where their beliefs and their values comes into play to help them not to do the things that will destroy them. And when people don't have strong value systems that are really grounded, this is when the infidelity is coming in. Your body will naturally respond. But what you do after that, it's totally up to you. It's how much standard do you have and how much value do you value your relationship.
As they're going by and
constantly.
That's right.
Do not drool.
And that response is what they have control over. Yeah. And the standard of that is what they also have control over. And that's why it's important that if you're going into a relationship, establish what are the rules of your relationship. But you have to establish, both the guy, the husband and the wife have to set what the standard of expectation in that relationship is.
But it's scientifically proven too that as guys, we can impregnate 9 times a day.
Yeah.
Right? So it's in our DNA to want other things,
Yes.
right? As a woman, they look at quality, right? They look because they can only do it every 9 months. So it's all about looking for the best mate, the best person to be with, right? So it is scientific proven. It's not an excuse, though.
No, it's not an excuse, but it is really scientifically proven. And I really want to stress this because I do, and I know men feel this way, but I do get so many women that I encounter that feel that it's disrespectful or whatever. And I'm always, letting them know it's natural. Men are built to appreciate the beauty of a woman. And it doesn't mean that you're not the woman. It doesn't mean that you're not the one they're going home with. It just means that they appreciate beauty. That's how they got to you in the first place. And I encourage the women who may encounter that with men that they're with to really turn your love inwards and really shine the light on your own beauty and know your own beauty so that you have that security within yourself and within your relationship with your partner, right?
I think that's a great question you raised, Priya. My wife would be the first one to tell you, I'm the one that, standing in line at Starbucks sometimes I'm like, oh, she's got nice shoes there, right? And there are times I've actually gone up to the lady, I say, excuse me, where'd you get your shoes from? I need to get it from my wife. But it's really a completely being honest, being open about it. One of the books I read, I think it's really geared towards men by the gentleman by the name of David Dita, I think it is, The Way of the Superior Man or something like that. Book. It's a great book for men, and he talks about in that book about just soaking in that energy of admiring the beauty, just soaking it in, let it run through you. It's just like both of you gentlemen said, it's a natural phenomenon, and learning to translate that energy into us is where the key lies. So I think the beginning is, of course, being honest and being open and understanding that how your partner feels about it as well.
And also, it's very important that the people that overreact to this response, to this behavior, that they overreact when their partner looked at the opposite sex, are people that do not so much feel secure within themselves. And the problem that I tend to see these days as a coach, because I have all this raw data from my clients, when someone, either the guy or the girl, it's not taking good care of themselves, especially physically. This is one of the biggest problems we face, because now they start to judge themselves, and they take that judgment, which becomes a filter. And then they start to interpret your behavior as if you're doing that intentionally, as if you want to go pursue it. It's the same thing with a guy. When a guy is not taking good care of himself, especially physically, or if it's not doing well economically, they have some form of insecurity. So anytime when they're with their woman and someone better, a little bit in terms of his perception, passes by, they slice this thing, he makes an accusation. So it's going both ways. But so that's why it's important that both men and women come from a place where they feel so much enough within themselves, that they feel secure within themselves, that these things are not a problem.
Yeah, this is what happens. You know, I went to drop my little guy off to school one day, and this other mother was there, and she was taking her child into the school, and she was smoking hot, right? And I'm like, wow, she looks great. And I got in the car, I was so pissed off because I'm like, well, I wonder where she works. Like, how did she do it, right? So I know myself well enough to ask the question, what's really your problem this morning? My problem that morning was I'd woken up late, I threw my hair in a ponytail, I probably never have since that day, wear track pants, and threw some clothes on, went to drop off, and she took the time for herself that I didn't take. And as a result, I mean, being someone who coaches and has to be evolved in that sense, to be able to have the awareness to say, this is really my issue. So I went back home, went back in the shower, started all over again, and went, oh, she looked great, and so do I. Right?
Right. You used it as inspiration, right?
But that's what ends up happening, because you start to feel bad about yourself, and nobody wants to feel bad about themselves. So they're either going to take it out on the person who's looking at the other person, right? Or they're going to take it out on that person that's being looked at. Yeah. And it's somebody else's fault. Yeah. So I think one of the things I can take away from that is for the other partners, and I'm going to say men, because in my practice I hear more from the ladies, and I do have a 50-50 practice, but gentlemen, of course, you're going to see beautiful women. Just reassure, if you're with a woman, reassure her, though, at that time. If you notice she feels a little insecure, reassure her that she definitely is the one, and she, that woman's beautiful. She's got nothing on you, kind of thing, right? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and Priya, so much that we've talked about today. I mean, I'm seeing like a common theme here, that it really goes on for, it's internal first. Whether it's for men or women, it's internal first. It's like you need to show up independent, secure, and confident in yourself. Then interacting with the world or interacting with your spouses just becomes not a game, but it is just a matter of interacting with people. Yeah. But it starts with me inside. Totally. Right, because then I'm not compensating for anything. My reaction is not compensating for anything. So that's it's a great insight.
That reaction also, it stems from these two fears from humanity psychology perspective, that all human beings have two fears that they have in common. And one of those fears is that the fear that we're not enough. So the moment that behavior shows up, that response shows up, the person's go inside and they start to feel that they are not enough. Right. And that's what you said. The assurance has to come in, and you have to let your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend to know that you chose them because you really love them, and they are they are the most beautiful, the most handsome, whatever in your own context of your own linguistic of expression. And if you can do that, then you can be able to bypass that accident that's supposed to have been, that problem that the two of you could have hang on to, and then both of you probably have a horrible time.
Yeah, give us a final word for the viewers.
I think the final word I would really say to people is that take care of yourself. If you can come from a place in which you feel so good about yourself, these things will no longer be a problem for you. It's when people do not take care of themselves, both mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, that's when these things tend to show a lot more, because they start to feel that they are not enough compared to everyone else.
Yes. Yeah,
Raza. For men, I'll say the same thing that I've said, right at the beginning, that, consider that you don't know anything. Right, and get yourself to a point where you're open to learning, not necessarily just having your program just come to the table and learn. And with women, I would say, first of all, we as much as we may not admit it, we appreciate you ladies, right, and give your men room to become solid in who they are and what their values and principles are. Give them opportunities to do that, and then you'll find out that you've got an anchor to hold on to.
See, and you just reinforced the point that we like to hear it. I'm watching you talk, and then you're like, we appreciate you ladies, and I felt myself smile. We appreciate size.
Check.
Yeah. Check. Compliment host. Done. Good job, Raza. Grant, final words.
I really think as a man, success. I mean, we always try to tend to chase success, and success isn't always about money. It's about a balance in life. It's about your family life. I mean, someone could be the most wealthy person with finances, but could be poor when it comes to home life, to family life, right? So I mean, you really got to work in all angles, right? And you definitely have to put your significant other on a pedestal. You know, like you really have to look at them as your hero or whatever. I mean, my wife is absolutely incredible with the stuff she does. I mean, she takes care of business, she takes care of the kids, she takes care of the house. And you know, you got to be able to grow with that and acknowledge that and work with it.
She's a super mom.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely.
Where can we find you and what's up and coming in November?
You can always find me on Lucas Asu, lucasasu.com.
Perfect. And
What we have coming up in November, we have an NLP life coach training coming up in November. Come and learn some NLP and some life coach tools for you to change your life and start living what? 365.
365, baby.
That's
how
right.
we do it. Raza, where can we find you? What's up and coming for you?
Yeah, very good. The best way to connect with me is just go to the performancezonebook.com. All of my communication will happen through there, and when the book is released, you'll get a free copy as well.
The book is?
The book is The Performance Zone. It's a step-by-step system to help you be more productive, work with efficiency, and create expanded results.
And when can we get that?
Probably in the summertime, so early summertime. That's when we're looking
I'm
at
going to have
release
to give
date.
credit to the fly. And
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
The fly on the wall, the proverbial fly on the wall.
It wants the spotlight too.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Grant, where can we find you and what's
You
up and
can
coming?
find me literally everywhere. It sounds cocky, but I'm sorry. But I mean, I love
We're
social,
men.
I love
It's okay,
social
you're cocky,
media.
right?
I
You're a
love
guy.
social
He's
media.
what he
I'm out everywhere, right? And if you don't find me there, you can find me at our office. We're constantly doing stuff there in the newspaper. We have a toy drive coming up that we're doing for the community. That's coming up now. We're starting now, and we will be delivering the toy drive in December. And then we have a business expo that we're working on as well. That's coming up in April.
And I also saw your truck also drive around.
Yeah, shameless plugs, man. Yeah,
That's right. Let's do that.
yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your personal
Thank you.
stories, your personal relationships. I truly appreciate you being here today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Priya.
you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're all going to be in relationships at some point in time. What I can encourage you to do is to really show up as yourself. Show up as yourself right from the beginning, and that comes from learning to accept yourself so that you don't have to worry about when the mask falls off or when the weave falls off or when the money stops coming in. Just be who you truly are when you're engaging in relationships and getting into them. The other one thing I want to say to you is accept the person that you're getting into a relationship with as they are. You know, don't fall in love with them wanting to change them or fall in love with the potential that you might see. Fall in love with the person that's right before you. And as always, I want to remind you to stop waiting and start living 365.